Thursday, Major League Baseball will officially be back. And I saw some testing data that I was pretty impressed by. And you guys know that math is never my absolute strong suit. But I do think it's worth mentioning that the MLS, the NHL, and the NBA yesterday announced a total of 4,170 tests, if I'm not mistaken, that they have taken place over the past several days. And among that number, just 2 players or executives or assistants or staff members were positive in the entirety of all 3 of those leagues. That's pretty extraordinary. Again, to reiterate, and I'll make sure I get the number right, but I believe I have with the math. 4,170 players or staff of the MLS, the NHL, and the NBA were announced to have been tested independently in all 3 of these sports for the coronavirus, and only 2 people out of 4,170 tested positive. So there were a lot of people out there who said, oh my God, you can never bring back sports. The overall testing is going to be so much negativity associated with it. We're never going to be able to play all these things. That's MLS, NHL, and the NBA. And I should mention that Major League Baseball is also having minimal to non-existent positive test rates as well. Now, the NFL players, it appears, have reached an agreement on essentially their return to training camp. And reports are there will be no preseason games at all. But the NFL players yesterday for the Texans and for the Chiefs, the rookies began to arrive. So they begin the process for most of the NFL rookies today, where the players are just going to show up, get tested, turn around, and go back home. But we are rapidly coalescing towards everyone returning. And it appears that all of these leagues are doing a pretty good job of figuring out how to test players and how to deal with any positives they might have initially and then limit the spread of this virus. And that is an incredible positive as it pertains to the return of sports. So we've got Major League Baseball, MLS, NHL, NBA, and NFL all in the next few days officially coming back together and beginning the process of the sports themselves. So this, I believe, is a pretty strong positive as you look at all of the details. And remember, MLS was a little bit of a mess early on because they had issues. I believe it was with the Dallas and the Nashville team, if I was not mistaken. But they announced again yesterday that 1,168 tests had been administered to 1,106 individuals July 18th and 19th at their host hotel in Florida, and they had 0 new confirmed positives and 0 from any of the new teams that are now involved and not participating at Nashville and at Dallas as well. So effectively, the MLS has wiped out the virus. The NHL is close to wiping out the virus. The NFL is beginning that process, but Major League Baseball and the NBA are both close to wiping out the virus among their players as well. So all of this is a tremendous positive as we move forward. Now, I wanted to also hit you with, well, let me bring in the crew. Danny G, you remember when everybody was saying, oh my God, this is going to be impossible. There's no way it's going to take place. It's amazing how quickly things have shifted. I almost hear no criticism of these leagues or these sports for deciding to come back at all now. Do you hear any criticism at all?
No, nothing right now. I mean, the headlines are 0 positives out of 346 tested in NBA bubble.
Yep.
And what's awesome about the bubble working is this, for a fact, was the first radio show in the country having the idea of doing a bubble. You were laughed at when you presented that idea.
By Petros, who will be on in hour 3. He came on and he ridiculed me at the very idea of it. Now, to be fair, the NHL is doing a form of a bubble, it appears, in Canada, but Major League Baseball isn't. Major League Baseball is allowing these guys to have normal existence. They're staying at home. They're trying to limit their overall, theoretical exposure to the larger community, but they're playing every day as they get ready for the official start of Major League Baseball season in 2 days. And so it's interesting to me. We'll see, and we've talked a lot about this, the different methods and manners through which they are deciding to go. But I do think it's really intriguing to break down and see exactly how this is going to end up going.
Yeah, and I guess the MLB is a better test for the rest of us civilians who are coming to work at our jobs every day and not getting COVID-19. And since they're not going to be in the bubble, they're kind of with the rest of us who have been working throughout this entire experience.
Yeah, and the NFL's not going to be in a bubble either, and they're beginning the process, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of, as Dr. Chow has talked about, I mean, there should be an expectation that there will be several players on each team who are testing positive right now. They'll be isolated, they'll be treated, and then they'll go into training camp once they pass those tests. I'm sure there'll be a lot of, oh my God, look at how many positives there are, just like there were in the NBA, just like there were in Major League Baseball or the NHL or MLS. And then they'll figure out who's positive. None of those people will probably know that they're positive at all because they're mostly asymptomatic. And then they'll get better and they'll go back in. And odds are that the overall infection rate will decline pretty precipitously once everybody starts knowing whether or not they have it. Now, positive in the NFL front is I've been saying this for a long time. I think one thing we could take away, although I know that the owners are going to want these games to take place, that is actually a positive from the coronavirus in general, is it managed to eliminate the NFL preseason. And so as a result, the first time we're going to see an NFL game on the field is, I believe, September 10th. I believe that's the date that's right. You guys can check me on it. That opening Thursday night football game between the Chiefs and the Texans will be the first time we have an opportunity to actually see anybody take the field for an NFL game, and what exactly that will look like remains to be seen. How many fans will be allowed to be in attendance? But by the way, NASCAR has sort of slowly been introducing fans back. I saw where the Indy 500, which I believe is going to take place in August in Indianapolis, if I'm not mistaken, late August, is planning on having a Super Bowl-sized crowd. I saw the quotes. So 65,000 to 100,000 people sort of distanced there as a way to watch the Indy 500. I don't know what the total numbers are going to be, and I know that in the state of New York they announced the Giants and in the state of New Jersey they announced that the Giants and Jets, who are both New York teams, but they play in New Jersey, as well as Rutgers, would be required to have 500 or fewer fans, and most people's reaction was to make fun of the idea that Rutgers would ever have more than 500 fans, which is kind of funny in and of itself. That was the easy joke to be made. But by and large, I am seeing a lot of sudden optimism out there about the ability of sports to come back and to play, and all of that is working very much in favor of, I think, a return to normalcy in this country in general. Dub, are you also picking up on all these signs of optimism? Again, 4,170 players, athletes, support staff tested in the MLS, the NHL, and the NBA. Just 2 positives, both in the NHL. Basically, that is an incredible sign for the return of sports. And again, the 2 MLS teams that had issues in Dallas and in Nashville are both now COVID clean as well. But Dub, are you in agreement here with everybody else that we're moving in this direction in a really rapid fashion?
Yeah, this is obviously awesome news. And you asked Danny G, or you said that there hasn't been much criticism of anything. Well, it's hard to criticize those numbers. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's only been that few tests with that few positive tests among all those leagues. That's awesome news. And I think it's good news for college football as well. We had Greg Sankey on last week, and he shared some positive details about some of their tests going on. So I think just overall, when you're looking at the broad scope of sports returning, we are on the right track. There's no doubt about that.
I think Roberto is in. Roberto, are you hearing much negativity, or do people seem like they're kind of embracing this in general?
No, I do think they're definitely embracing it. I knew these leagues would eventually get going. I mean, too much money involved. And if they could play soccer in Europe and then play baseball in South Korea and in Japan, it's like I knew eventually the leagues were going to get going here.
Yeah, and we'll figure out exactly what best practices are. And again, there's a difference in how different teams and different leagues are responding. Right now, the MLS is in a bubble, but they're going to leave that bubble sooner rather than later, if I'm not mistaken, and go and start to play their season in all of their locations around the country. We know Major League Baseball is staying at home, and they're playing in the home field vicinity they're trying to limit the overall amount of travel, but they're going to be in their home field environments as well. The NFL is going to be in a home field environment, and the NBA is the only team that in America is going to stay full-time in a bubble-like environment. And then if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't looked at a lot of the details coming out of the NHL, but I believe they're in 2 different cities in Canada. And so they have a bubble-like environment, although it's not as intense as the one that exists in the NBA there as well. So it will be intriguing to follow exactly which of these situations receives the most attention going forward. But should also mention that NASCAR doesn't have a bubble environment, and I know they have Fight Island, but I don't believe for the UFC fighters that are in the United States there's any particular restrictions on how exactly they're allowed to move about either. So what's encouraging as well is it may not necessarily be a policy that everybody has to adopt that's the exact same. It seems like many of these teams and athletes are smart enough to be able to have their normal lifestyle and existence in their hometowns and not have to go into the bubble environment like everybody is at the NBA. But this will be something that is interesting to follow. The NBA certainly would be expected to have fewer positives going forward than anywhere else because of this bubble situation. But it may be that many of these leagues are not necessarily going to have very many positives anyway. Again, going to be very, very interesting to follow. I'm going to open up phone lines, 877-996-6369, 877-996-6369. We'll take your calls reacting to any of the return of sports questions you might have. I'll talk about why I believe college football is also going to be coming back when we return, and also the importance of high school sports, high school football in particular, as many different states are making decisions. The state of California, for instance, saying we're not going to play in the fall semester. That seems to be a substantial minority opinion across the country, although Virginia has also made that same decision, which seems like a bad one in my opinion. I'll explain why. But many other states, Georgia and Florida among them, I saw last night, announcing that they will begin practice on Monday, so 6 days from now on July 27th. The state of Georgia, for instance, planning on a full high school football season, and I think that's going to become a reality. I know in Iowa, Nebraska, I could run through South Dakota, a lot of different states that have officially announced that they're going to have a normal high school football season. And I think that is going to become the standard situation across the country for most states, notwithstanding the decisions that have been made in California and Virginia, which I believe you can let me know. You can call in if there are any other states that have officially said we're not playing in the fall. I haven't seen them. I think that's going to be a minority opinion. But again, the number 877-996-6369. I am Clay Travis. I appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Also, we had a few kneelers in Major League Baseball. I'm not really going to spend very much time on it. We'll have a discussion about that over the course of today's program as well. And then, as always, we're going to be joined by Petros Papadakis in Hour 3. All that still to come. I'm Clay Travis. Encourage you right now to go sign up for the OutKick VIP. We have got thousands of you guys signing up for the OutKick VIP right now. We're doing all sorts of cool stuff with it. Myself and Jason Whitlock are doing weekly Zoom calls. If you go to the OutKick VIP message board, which you have access to and which is becoming a very active place, you can go get the details on those weekly Zoom calls and be able to hang out with us. There is a lot going on there that I think you guys will enjoy. You get the ability to go out and comment on all of our articles. You also get the ability to call the VIP phone line, not have to wait in line to be able to be heard when we open up phones like we are doing here. 877-996-6369. That is the phone number for most people. You get a special VIP phone line. You can sometimes hear Danny G letting people on for that reason. All of it's great. We appreciate all of you. We are growing like gangbusters with everything OutKick related, and that is going to continue on into the future. July, we are on track for the greatest month in the history of the program. A lot to get into. We're opening up phone lines, much to discuss. It's all very positive. The return of sports officially underway with the Major League Baseball games beginning on Thursday. This is OutKick on Fox Sports.